You are watching The Horizon, the voice of the Amber Woman, exclusively on ABC Amber TV.
Mutumbo, mama yo, na ya boy go get her. Blue Jay Bonders. Mama you kind, mama you're beautiful, mama you good, mama you're wonderful. No woman like you, mama. No woman like you, mama. Thank God for you, mama. Thank God for you, mama. 'Cause you gave me life, oh mama. Queen of my life, oh mama. I go love you for life, oh mama. 'Cause you love me so, oh mama. From small begin, I never forget all the suffer when you suffer for me. Oh yeah, yeah. All the pain and the troubles where I put you through. I remember when money no be there and chop no be there for her. You be the try your best. You go run around to find us something where we go chop. When I dey sick, you know the sleep, you go dey cry all night. You go hold me tight, start to pray, say God make you help my oh Lord. Ooh, I wo ye choma, afunga na bere ye funga choma, ambama na bere ye ambama choma, enga na chinyum ye ga choma. Mama, I wo ye choma, afunga na bere ye funga choma, ambama na bere ye ambama choma, enga na chinyum ye ga choma, ye ga choma, mama. Enga na chinyum ye ga choma, chinyum ye ga choma. Oh, you gave me life, oh mama, queen of my life, oh mama. I will love you for life, oh mama. 'Cause you love me so, oh mama. You're my motivation. You gave me the best education, mama. The song where I sing, I'm for you. Now it's special dedication to you. Oh yeah. I know say every night and day, you pray say make a mama. The God where you the pray, I'm for heaven. Don't give me this inspiration, mama. The song where I sing, I'm for you. Now to show my appreciation to you. Be a warrior, choma. A funga na bere ya funga choma. I'm bomb na bere ya bomb choma. Engana chinum ya ga choma. Mama warrior, choma. A funga na bere ya funga choma. I'm bomb na bere ya bomb choma. Engana chinum ya ga choma. Chinum ya ga choma. Chinum ya ga choma. Chinum ya ga choma. You gave me life, mama, queen of my life, mama. I will love you for life. I will love you, mama, 'cause you love me so, mama. You gave me life, mama, queen of my life, mama. I will love you for life, mama. 'Cause you love me so, oh mama, mama, selelele, ale 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 mama. Oh, that's so. That's so, mother's day. That's so.
Greetings to everyone watching The Horizon today. I salute you all if you're in the home front, if you're in ground one, if you're anywhere in the diaspora. Welcome to The Horizon, the voice of the Amber Woman. My name is Dr. Patience Abedu, popularly known as My Patients, and it's a pleasure to host this program today. I want to particularly thank our Restoration Forces, ARF. I want to thank our mothers and sisters watching over them, providing for them, caring for them. I want to thank those who are supporting from the home front in the background, whatever you're doing, because as we know, this is a just cause. We are fighting for the truth. We are fighting for justice. We're fighting for future generations. We call ourselves the Never Again generation because we want this liberation quest. We want our freedom. We want to end the injustice of the past during our lifetime. Without further ado, I want to welcome our guests to this program today. Today we will be having Dr. Winifred Lobari, the Speaker of the Interim House of Representatives, and one of our guests, our previous guest on this show. She's a frequent guest here, not a stranger. And we'll also have Barrister Ghana joining us in a few minutes. Oh, he's already here. Barrister Ghana, Mawini, welcome to the Horizon. I'll give you both a minute. We'll go with the lady first and then the gentleman. I'll give you both a minute to say hello to our audience, our viewers. Welcome to the Horizon. Mawini.
Thank you, my patients. And I really appreciate being here. And I know I have been here many times. It's an honor. It's a privilege. I don't take it for granted. But in all, I just want to be a servant for our people so I can do the best that I can do to get us faster to Boya. And I want to also extend my greetings to Barrister Ghana. I miss you. I haven't seen you in a long time. And viewers, you're also greeted.
Thank you, Mawini. Barrister, yes, go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Abiedu and Dr. Lobadi. It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be serving our people, as Dr. Lobati rightly said. We are servants of Ambazonia, and we are honored not just to be here, and we are honored not just by our people who are doing a valiant job on the home front, but we are honored to have been given this opportunity by history to help usher the freedom and they cement the independence and regain the sovereignty of Amazonia. So each of you who is listening, if you're living in this generation where this fight is taking place, where this combat struggle is taking place to free our people, you should count yourself very honored to be part of this generation, because there are many generations gone by who wish they were or who wish they had been in this position to make this much of a difference towards freeing our people. So we are all honored to be here, and we are all honored to be servants of Ambazonia, piloting that plane, canoeing that ship towards the absolute and total sovereignty of Ambazonia.
Thank you so much, Barrister Ghana. We'll take a short break, but before this short break, I wanted to just make this observation. Last time Barrister Ghana was on the show, we really matched in our outfit, but I want to say something. Unless I'm colorblind, I think your tie complements Mawini and myself. It's like, I just want to pick that up. Your tie complements the two women on the show. So thank you for always being, I don't know, having some proactive vision, but I just thought I'd make that remark.
Very, very true, Dr. Lobati. That's the first thing I noticed, that every time we are on this show, somehow by some chemistry, we just seem to coordinate our outfits, and I think we also coordinate our thoughts. And as the Book
Absolutely.
of Faith says, divine encounters never conflict. So I consider us being on this show very divine. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll be taking a very, very brief break, and then we'll come back with our program. We have two huge topics today. One of them is injustice, has to do with resisting injustice, and the responsibility of every single Amazonian. And the second topic has to do with the coup in Gabon, and whether La République du Cameroon or France should be worried. So if we can have some music while we take a quick break, and we'll come and delve straight into the program. Thank you so much.
Mutumbu, mutumbu, mama yo, na ya boy go get her. Blue Jay Brothers. Mama you kind, mama you're beautiful, mama you good, mama you're wonderful. No woman like you, mama. No woman like you, mama. Thank God for you, mama. Thank God for you, mama. 'Cause you gave me life, oh mama. Queen of my life, oh mama. I go love you for life, oh mama. 'Cause you love me so, oh mama. From small begin, I never forget all the suffer when you suffer for me. Oh yeah, yeah. All the pain and the troubles where I put you through. I remember when money no be there and chop no be there for her. You be the try your best. You go run around to find us something where we go chop. When I dey sick, you know the sleep. You go the cry all night. You go hold me tight, start to pray, say God make you have my oh Lord. Ooh, I will yeah choma. I'm funga na better yeah funga choma. I'm bombing na better yeah bomb choma. Enga na chinum yeah ga choma. Mama, I will yeah choma. I'm funga na better yeah funga choma. I'm bombing na better yeah bomb choma. Enga na chinum yeah ga choma. Enga choma mama. Enga na chinum yeah ga choma. Chinum yeah ga choma. Oh, you gave me life, oh mama, queen of my life, oh mama. I will love you for life, oh mama, 'cause you love me so, oh mama. Hey, hey, are you there? Pina, no I'm there. Ale mama, ale mama, ale mama, shekelelele, ale mama. You're my motivation. You gave me the best education, mama. The song where I sing I'm for you, now it's special dedication to you. Oh yeah, I know say every night and day you pray say make a mama. The God where you the pray I'm for heaven done. Give me this inspiration, mama. The song where I sing I'm for you, now to show my appreciation to you. Be a warrior, choma. I funga na better, yeah, funga choma. I'm bombing na better, yeah, bomb choma. Engana chinum yaga choma. Mama, warrior, choma. I funga na better, yeah, funga choma. I'm bombing na better, yeah, bomb choma. Engana chinum yaga choma. Chinum yaga choma. Chinum yaga choma.
welcome back to The Horizon, the voice of the Amber Woman. So our first topic today is resisting injustice and the responsibility of every Southern Cameroonian, Ambazonian, resisting injustice. In fact, when I thought about this topic, I had not come across a book that I just recently, my husband got from the library. It says Resistance and the Inception of the Restoration of the Statehood of Southern Cameroons. This is a book by Carson Anyangwe. It's a good read. I just started reading it, and I think every Southern Cameroonian Ambazonian, if you can lay hands on it, now I'm advertising for Carson Anyangwe. Interesting. But we'll take credit where credit is due or credit belongs. So we're talking about resistance, of resisting injustice. We know from the very beginning that our plight is based on injustice. From the very get-go, on that 30th of September 1961, when La République military got into our territory, the injustice started. We don't know what had been cooking previously, but that was the first day that we felt injustice. Our people were already getting berated. They were already getting harmed by La République military in our territory. But I don't want to waste our time because we have two great guests to talk about this subject. We want to see a video on injustice, and then we'll proceed from that.
You there, second desk, blue jacket. What is your name?
My name is Alexis.
Alexis, please leave my lecture room. I don't want to see you at one of my lectures ever again.
I don't understand.
I am not going to ask a second time. Thank you. Why are there laws? What are laws for? Anyone?
Social order?
To protect the person's personal rights. So that you can rely on the government?
Justice? Thank you. Tell me, was I unfair to your classmate just now? Indeed I was. So, why didn't any of you protest? Why didn't any of you try and stop me? Why didn't you want to prevent this injustice? You see, what you have just learnt, you wouldn't have understood in 1,000 hours of lectures unless you lived it. You didn't say anything because you weren't affected yourself. And this attitude speaks against you and against life. You think it doesn't concern you, so it's none of your business. Well, I'm here to say, if you don't help bring about justice, then one day you too may experience injustice, and there will be nobody there to stand before you. Truth and justice lives through us all, and we must fight for it. Because in life and work, I mean, we often live next to each other, but not with each other. We console ourselves that the problems of others are nothing to do with us, none of our business. And we go home glad at night that we're spared, but it's about standing up for each other. Every day an injustice happens in business, sport, or on the tram. Relying on someone else to take care of it is not good enough. It is our duty to be there for others, to speak up for others when they cannot. I am here to teach you the power of your voice. I want you to learn critical thinking to empower you to stand up for what is right, even if it means going against what everyone else is doing. Let's begin.
That is a very powerful video. I'm sure a lot of us have seen it in the different fora, but I thought to bring it on this platform so that those who are living in the home front, those who are in ground one, and those in the diaspora who may not have seen it should see it, think about it, and listen to our two great guests today. Ma Winnie, I will start with you, just because we always say ladies before gentlemen. I will start with you. This video, when you listen to it, please relate it to our quest for recognition and what has happened in our territory so far.
To be honest, the beginning of it was troubling to me. When the lecturer asked the lady to walk out, I said, why are the others not speaking up? Why are they quiet? Why are they not asking? Why does she have to leave? And then the next thought that came to my mind is, tomorrow it will be the next student. The next day it will be another one. And because nobody is speaking, by the end of however long they had to be in that class or in that session or whatever, they will all have experienced some injustice. And if nobody spoke up, they will all become victims of injustice. And so relating it and tying it back to Ambazonia, Southern Cameroons, those who have read and know the history and the injustice that has been meted out to Southern Cameroons and Ambazonia and keep glossing it because they have some diplomatic relationship with La République du Cameroon and saying nothing. It's hypocrisy at its core. It's hypocrisy. I won't even say it, whether you call it diplomatic relationship, whether you call it strategic interest, it's hypocrisy at its core. It's disturbing. And the truth is, like the common saying that injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. Therefore, if we have human rights upheld everywhere, then everyone will be safe. But if it's not, then you're never sure if you will be the next. I don't want to quote a popular saying that Dietrich Bonhoeffer, I think that was original of him. He said, when they came for the Jews, we said nothing. They came for the pastors, we said nothing. They came for the next group of people, we said nothing. And finally, when they came for me, there was nobody else to speak up because the others had all been taken.
Mape, are you there? It seems as if she's frozen.
I hope not. Go ahead. You go ahead and talk. She'll probably
Let
find
me give her
herself back.
a second or two just to see if she will make it back.
She's not blinking.
Okay.
She's not blinking. I think you're right. So go on.
Correct. Yeah. So, Dr. Abiedu, I think you might have been disconnected, but we are going to proceed as if you were here and as if you are listening. You know, yeah, Dr. Lobati, you said it right. You said it so well. You know that we are in all of us are in this boat called the boat of humankind, and we can choose to be just and fair and do the right thing and lobby for the right causes, or we can choose to be unjust and corrupt and unfair and prosper or attempt to prosper on the side of what is wrong. And that video, yes, it was uh, a brief demonstration of what injustice can be, as well as it can be. It was also a brief demonstration at how injustice can exist, and you have a whole plethora of people around who seek to do just nothing to counter that injustice. And there's a saying here that says, "Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the judgment that something else is more important than fear." I'm going to repeat that one more time. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the judgment that something else is more important than fear. And relating that to our situation in Ambazonia, we have to realize that the reason why we are up in arms and fighting to regain our sovereignty is because we have decided that something is more important than fear. It's because we have decided that enough is enough. It's because a good number of us have decided that it is just better to live a year or two on our feet than 1,000 years on our knees and in slavery and capitulation to La République du Cameroon. And our valiant heroes on the ground who are fighting are liberating us inch by inch. And all of us in the diaspora who are contributing our little bit to defend our refugees, to defend our people, to do what is necessary to stop La République from coming into Ambazonia and killing people willy-nilly. We need to give ourselves more courage, more of that courage that says something is more important than fear. Thus, we will rise to overthrow that fear. So, I think that video was very demonstrative of what is happening, but I'm going to go ahead and give another example to correlate it to that point. Let's say you have 100 people in a boat, and one person is somewhere at the rear, and we are in a boat in an ocean, rowing and going someplace, and one person is at one of the seats at the rear, digging their own seat, carving a hole and boring a hole down there. Well, if that person succeeds, sooner or later that boat is going to begin to leak, and water is going to start filling that boat. And just because you might be seated at the front seat and you're not the one who dug that hole, but you sat silently while that hole was being dug, that boat is going to drown. And when it drowns, it's going to take you down with it. So for some of us Ambazonians who are in Yaoundé or in Douala or in bed with the government of La République du Cameroon, thinking it is just that fight in Ambazonia. It's just those restoration forces who are going to die. It is just those who are in the diaspora who have gotten themselves into this thing, and they can die in exile, and they think they are safe. Trust me, it is like that hole in the boat, and when that boat starts leaking, and it's been leaking for over 60 years in La République, and in that whole false construct called La République du Cameroon that presumably includes Ambazonia. And Ambazonia, by international law, is not part of La République. That boat has been leaking, and it is drowning. I'm going to go ahead and give another example, a very realistic example that we see. You see, about 23 years ago, when Boris Yeltsin in Russia handed over power to Vladimir Putin. And the constitution in Russia said, you come, you serve your 2 terms, and then you get out. And what did Vladimir Putin do? He came, he served 2 terms, and he decided to tweak the constitution where he could leave from president and go be prime minister and have Medvedev come be president, and after 1 term, he comes back. And what did Russians do? They kept quiet. What did the oligarchs like Prigozhin do? They kept quiet. And Putin just continued from one disaster to another. And those Russians who thought, maybe it's just Putin trying to do a power grab. Maybe it's just Putin going into Chechnya. Maybe it's just Putin going into Georgia. Are now realizing their sons and daughters being sent into Ukraine, and they are dying in the hundreds of thousands. And when we look at that infrastructure of injustice, like it has been perpetuated in Cameroon, as was perpetuated in Russia, when we look at that infrastructure of injustice, where we see people like Prigozhin in Syria using sledgehammers to torture people, just like we saw Prigozhin in Ukraine using sledgehammers to torture people, because he thought he was an oligarch, because he thought he was within that class that was going to be spared and did not have to rise up to defend the common man. What did we just witness about a month ago? We saw his plane falling from the sky, from the very hands of that injustice which he helped to perpetuate. So this message goes to all of you guys in La Republique who think that this fight is just in Amazonia. And those are the people at the back row. And that leak in that boat might just be around their seat. The boat in La Republique is leaking, and it is going to capsize. So if you allow injustice to continue, it is eventually going to get to you, and even the Bia Bivondo family is not going to be spared. Thank you for that video, Mape, and excuse me that I took a little bit longer than you probably allotted to me.
No, that's good. I'm glad it took a little bit longer. I had some technical issues on my end, so I appreciate that. So I hear 2 messages from you guys that sooner or later, if you ignore to speak up when there's injustice, sooner or later, you yourself will be a victim of injustice. That is the take-home message. In that video also, the lecturer said something, said he wants to teach them the power of their voices, teach them the power of their voices. So all of us watching what is happening in Southern Cameroon, Amazonia, it doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter your economic status, your social status. It doesn't matter. You have a voice. You have a voice that is based on knowing right versus wrong. It's just inherent that people know what is right and what is wrong. So you need to use that voice to help solve injustices that have happened in our territory. Barrister Mawini, Dr. Lobadi, I want to take a particular issue of injustice and talk about it. I want you to talk about the injustices that surround the fact that our sons have been targeted from the get-go. When this war started by BIA, our sons have been targeted where they go from household to household, take 12 years and older, and kill them. And some of them have been forced to flee from their homes. And in your view, such an injustice, how has that manifested in being a serious problem that has long-term consequences?
There are several consequences, but before I get into that, when this, let me call it the modern or the 21st century resistance, which is the 2016 ongoing up to date. When it started, there was a point where La République targeted young boys from the ages of, I think, 9. And I remember there was either on social media about some children that were also picked and locked up. Our children that were picked up and locked up at the age of, I think, 12 or so in Douala. It's really a targeted, I would say, not just, it's a targeted killing, elimination of the males, and now it's even going beyond males, females, the seed, and the young ones who are generally of the reproductive age. Let's start before we even get to the killing. Majority of the people incarcerated in La République de Cameroon and even in the south, in Amazonia, are Amazonian citizens. Before even 2016, we had a group of young men that were picked up in Menchum County, because we had some deal who was in that area, or military person, who some little thing transpired, and they gathered all the young men in that community, and they were detained even before 2016. We never heard about it until the events of 2016 came up, and then the arbitrary arrest, no trial, nothing. And actually, most of them are just prisoners of conscience. When that happened, what are they trying to do? Besides the summary killings, the mass graves that most of our people have been put in, and it seems like it's ending, it's also another way to reduce our population, bring in other men that they consider their La République military, which they are, but they don't only come by themselves. They come, they bring their disease, they start having young girls impregnated either through rape or consensual, and so they're leaving more seed, diluting our population, not out of people loving themselves, but out of forceful rape. There is a lot of we basically, we can just say it's genocide, and genocide is a targeted summary killing without respect for human rights, and it's just because you belong, or you are part, or you are not something else that they want you to be. Either because you belong to Amazonia and you are not, as they will call it, a francophone, or you are not part of the elite. I call them elite because they consider themselves elite, but they really are not, because at any time they will be thrown under the bus, they will be wiped out. I wonder, and I think, how do people live with all this injustice around? And they want some pretentious peace that doesn't really exist, to say, let's stop and let things return to normal. There has never been a normalcy in La République du Cameroon. Unfortunately, people did not know. It's just because we are now more informed, more educated about our human rights, understanding our history, and so we are targeted for elimination. But this, I thank you, those on at home front. I really want to thank all of you who have faithfully for over 6 years honored the Country Sundays, because you're honoring Country Sunday is a voice, and that voice is saying that I see this injustice and I will not stand for it. I see this injustice And I'm lending my voice with my other brothers and sisters and parents to say that it is wrong. Something needs to be done, and justice needs to be in place and has to be put for everybody to really truly have peace. So I appreciate Homefront. ARFs, I appreciate you because many of you are laying your lives. Some of you have been maimed permanently because of standing up for the truth, standing up for what you know is truth and not backing down. So I really appreciate you all for doing this.
Thank you so much, Mawini. I'm going to ask Barrister Ghana a similar question. I don't know if he wants to say something on the first part that I asked you that has to do with our sons and brothers, young children that have really bore the brunt of this war. Most of them lost their lives. But in addition to that, Barrister, I also want to ask you to pivot on the what you think the legal system, you are a lawyer, how the legal system can really benefit from this video, because we know when the war started in 2016, the lawyers and teachers, they went on a strike. Are we able to see something like that again? But I'd like you to talk about what I asked previously of Mawini, and then address what the legal system or the lawyers can do again as far as fighting injustice.
Yeah, I appreciate those very delineating and those very clear comments from Dr. Lobati, and I appreciate you for asking that question. And again, what we all know, and international institutions have documented that what is going on in Ambazonia is genocide, and even the former U.S. ambassador to Cameroon, to Yaoundé, Mr. Peter Ballerin, sort of stated outrightly that what is happening in Ambazonia is a classic case of genocide. And it was the late Kofi Annan who said, genocide begins with the killing of one person, not for what he or she has done, but for who he or she is. And that's what's been happening. But the genocide in the southern Cameroons, the genocide in Ambazonia has been ongoing for over 60 years, because it didn't just start with the killing of people. It started with the attempts to destroy our culture. And if you look at the textbook definition of genocide, it also includes destroying the culture of our people, forcibly removing them from their land, displacing them, preventing them from having kids to be able to replace that genocide. That's all genocide. And if you go back right to 1960, the illegal dissolution of the Southern Cameroon's parliament, the destruction of our industries, Powercam, Santa Coffee Estate, you name it. All of those institutions were destroyed because they were all steps towards destroying us as a people and making us unrecognizable to ourselves. So this proceeded until we saw in 2015 when the lawyers went on strike. And what did they do? They sent in the most brutal form of policemen to beat them up, to rub them up in mud, because they wanted to march on with their plan of genocide. Thank God that our people were able to rise. Thank God that we have restoration forces who are in arms, who have reason to stop what French Cameroon, supported by France, has been doing. We've seen cases like when they went to Widikum in Kendem and picked up a young little child and threw that child in a cauldron of boiling oil. We saw the case of Mami Api, about a 90-year-old grandmother who they had bullets unloaded into her brain. We saw it with the little baby in Tico, where they unloaded about a 3-year-old baby who had about 12 bullets unloaded into her. We saw it in the case of Ngabu, where French Cameroon soldiers, who later confessed to it, but who French Cameroon soldiers went there in the dark of night, killed mothers, fathers, little kids, killed even animals. And as if that was not enough, these French Cameroon soldiers, supported by France, threw gasoline on them and burned them up. And when they were accused of doing it, the Cameroon government tried to deny it until international observers presented satellite images that proved that there were Cameroon troops who went in there and slaughtered those people in Ngabu. We saw it in Kumba, where they went into a Catholic school and killed students who were in school, and we saw how those agents were agents sent from French Cameroon by the French Cameroon government, supported by the French embassy in Yaoundé and supported by France. So we see this genocide going on. And you ask the question of, like the lawyers going to protest, is that something we can see happen again? And my response is, we've already passed that stage of lawyers protesting. We passed that stage, and we are in the stage now of our restoration forces in arms aimed at restoring our sovereignty. So we are not just talking the talk right now. Our restoration forces are talking with the barrel of the gun. Our restoration forces are talking with IEDs. Our restoration forces are talking with shoulder-fired missiles. Our restoration forces have stood up to ensure that that little kid who was thrown into a cauldron of boiling oil in Kendem is not going to happen again. And if French Cameroon troops come and do that, there is going to be a response. And shame on the international community as well, because this genocide has been going on since 2016. The active genocide now of people actually being killed, and the international community has stayed silent. So shame on the international community, shame on France, shame on Britain. Yes, even shame on the United States of America, who prides herself as the beacon of freedom in the world, to observe such genocide going on and they stay silent, weighing their national sovereign interests. But this is going to come to an end. Our fight is not going to be for nothing, because we are not backing down. We have reason to fight, and you started by saying that this is the never again generation. And this never again generation has implanted the pillars that are going to emancipate and deliver Ambazonia from the grips of La République and France's slavery.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate how both of you have tackled this topic of injustice. And we hope that our people are listening, because it's only through our voices that change will come about. We'll be going to the next topic. We still have two more main topics to talk about, the coup in Gabon and whether what La République and France should be thinking about. Should they be worried about it? We know that a few days ago, there was a military takeover in Gabon, and Ali Bongo was put under house arrest and is still under house arrest. And we saw how the people, the common person on the street, was jubilating and excited because of this military takeover. So I'm going to have us move to that next topic and briefly talk about what happened in Gabon and relate it to what may happen in our neighbor, La République du Cameroon. Already has some of our people living in that country. We'll talk about what France has to do with all that is happening in these Francophone nations. And so I want our panelists to be ready to talk about this topic. There was a a nice video on this topic that I would like us to listen to because it gives us an idea. Some people that are living in the home front may not have seen this, but I want you to hear what is really happening, what took place a few days ago, and then we'll talk about related to La République du Cameroon. Thank you so much.
And now we move to Africa, where another coup is taking place, this time in the Central African nation of Gabon. It's an oil-rich nation of just 2.3 million people, and it has one of the highest per capita GDPs in Africa. The coup began early this morning, reportedly just minutes after the latest election results were announced. President Ali Bongo Ondimba won a third term in office. But Gabon's military leaders were not having it. They say the elections were not transparent, so they put Bongo under house arrest. Gabon's military has declared the end of the current regime. It says all institutions of the republic have been dissolved. Our next report brings you the details.
There's a political upheaval taking place in yet another former French colony. The Central African nation of Gabon is the latest to witness a coup. Earlier today, Gabon's military made this announcement.
Nous, forces de défense et de sécurité.
On this day, August 30th, 2023, we, the Defense and Security Forces, meeting within the Committee for the Transition and Restoration of Institutions, CTRI, on behalf of the Gabonese people and guarantor of the protection of institutions, have decided to defend peace by putting an end to the current regime. The general elections of August 26, 2023, as well as the truncated results, are cancelled. The borders are closed until further notice. All institutions of the Republic are dissolved.
The current regime has ended. All institutions are dissolved. How did the people of Gabon react to this news? Many are celebrating. People have taken to the streets to back the military. They are rejoicing after the ouster of President Ali Bongo Ondimba.
Il est porté à la connaissance.
The national and international community is informed that Mr. Ali Bongo Ondimba is being kept under house arrest. He is surrounded by his family and doctors.
The president and his family are reportedly being held at Gabon's presidential palace. They were put under house arrest by the Presidential Guard. It sounds like a repeat of the situation in Niger. But Gabon's case is a bit different. Gabon has been ruled by the Bongo family for 55 years. President Ali Bongo succeeded his father Omar Bongo after his death in 2009. Bongo Sr. had ruled for almost 42 years. Gabon was a single-party ruled state till 1990. And every election after that has been fraught with allegations of rigging. The same thing was happening in last week's election. Gabon had gone to polls on Saturday. President Ali Bongo was leading. The opposition claimed that the results were rigged, but Bongo was declared the winner early this morning. That's when the military initiated the coup. Just minutes after Bongo was declared the victor, the military announced the end of the current regime. Soon after, gunfire was reportedly heard in Gabon's capital, Libreville. But no reports of violence have emerged since. The people of Gabon seem to be fine with Bongo's ouster. His family is accused of pilfering the nation over the past few decades. Bongo Sr. built a fortune from Gabon's mineral wealth. The country is rich in oil, uranium, and minerals like manganese. These have been exploited over decades to bring wealth to the country. It has the 5th highest GDP per capita in all of Africa. But about a third of Gabon's people are still below the poverty line, which points to grave income disparities. It explains why Gabon's people are happy with the coup, and why the military made this announcement.
Par les autorités compétentes.
An investigation will be carried out by the competent authorities, and those concerned will answer for their actions. Gabonese people, we are finally on the road to happiness. May God and the hands of our ancestors bless Gabon. Honor and loyalty to the fatherland. Thank you.
This isn't the first coup in Gabon. One was attempted back in 1964, another as recently as 2019, but neither of them succeeded. The 2019 coup attempt was put down internally, and in 1964, France intervened to keep Gabon's rulers in power. France shares good relations with Gabon's leaders. The Bongo family is accused of stashing a lot of their ill-gotten wealth in France. So the reaction from Paris was on expected lines.
France condemns the military coup d'etat that is taking place in Gabon. France is closely monitoring the development of the situation on the ground and reaffirms its wish for the election results, once known, to be respected. So we are monitoring this closely.
Like in the past, France wants the president of Gabon reinstated. Remember, before he was ousted, Ali Bongo apparently won this election. So it seems Paris is backing him. But things are different today compared to a few decades ago. France is extremely unpopular in its former colonies. The people of coup-hit Niger, Mali and Burkina Faso have made that clear. In all those countries, anti-France sentiment has been on the rise. French diplomats and troops have been asked to leave. And this has granted legitimacy to the military juntas. Gabon too has a permanent contingent of French troops. But, unlike in the past, they haven't swung into action to reinstate the ousted president. Not yet, anyway. The spreading anti-France sentiment in Africa may restrict French action. So, if Bongo wants to get back his presidency, he may have to rely on local support. But considering the reactions to his arrest, that may be an uphill battle.
Thank you so much for that video. So I will start with you, Barrister Ghana. This video that we just saw has given us so much information that we can really parallel to what is happening in La République du Cameroon. We know that there was a coup attempt in La République du Cameroon in the 80s, or is it the 90s? I'm sorry, that didn't succeed. But the soil may be fertile for something to happen. There's one thing that I want to compare before I bring you to talk about this coup and relate it. The fact that the Bongo family were the sole rulers of Gabon for over 55 years, parallels to the fact that after Ayijo left, his handpicked replacement, Biya, has been there for over 40 years. And we understand that they were planning to have him succeeded by his son, Frank Biya. So are we, I shouldn't say are we, La République du Cameroon citizens going to sit for something like that? But I want to bring Barrister Ghana to address this current coup in Ghana and relate it and answer that question. Should France be afraid? Should La République du Cameroon be worried? Your take, Barrister Ghana.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abiedu, and thank you for playing that video that sort of details a little bit of the political history of Gabon leading to the coup and the incestual relationship that France has with its former colonies that are sort of breeding these coups d'etats that are going on. And in that video that you played, also, I just want to highlight something. We saw a French government official or the spokesman for the Champs-Élysées condemning the coup and stating that they want to respect the results of the election. What high noon hypocrisy. What piece of garbage from the French. We know that the French have been the engines of a lot of these coups in Africa. I mean, we can point to the fact or to the overthrow of Thomas Sankara by his number 2, Blaise Compaoré. That was a coup planned sponsored by France and delivered through Houphouët-Boigny in Ivory Coast that led to the death of a young African patriot, Thomas Sankara. We can point to several other coups in Africa. Look at even the current situation in Ivory Coast, where France came in, presumably through a UN resolution, and overthrew the government of Laurent Gbagbo in Ivory Coast. Where they had elections, the claim was that Gbagbo had already ruled for his legitimate terms, notwithstanding the fact that a constitution had been written where he had not met those 2 terms. And they put who? Alassane Ouattara, who has been a French stooge. But guess what? Alassane Ouattara has gone to run now for a 3rd term, and the French have been quiet about it. So the French should shut their mouths and keep quiet about what is happening in Gabon, for they have been the pillars of injustice, corruption, enslavement, neocolonialism in Africa. And so long as France remains a dominant force in those French colonies, they will always remain in turmoil. Now, back to the situation in Gabon. What piece of garbage for a family to think that they are the only ones who are entitled to rule in a nation. As was stated, Omar Bongo ruled that country for, I think, over 40 years. And then he handed over power to his son. And even when this weakling of a guy had a coma and could not walk, even when this weakling of a guy had a coma and was in the hospital in Morocco, he was still ruling. Even as we saw him visiting France and going to visit Macron, the guy can barely walk, and shamelessly, he is still the one ruling Gabon. And why is that the case? To serve the interest of the master, to serve the interest of the colonial master France, to enable them to get African resources for cheap prices. And so they are saying, we need to respect the status quo. We need to respect the results of the election. Garbage. They are just trying to defend French corrupt interest in Africa. And what were they probably trying to do? Probably have the son of Ali Bongo grow up so that they can pass over power to the son and maintain that client relationship. So the French have no moral authority to speak about that coup. Now, again, zooming in deeply about the coup, I did some research about this so-called General Nguema who overthrew Ali Bongo. And to me, it is not really a coup because it is more of a shift in power. You see, he comes from the same family. They come from the same extended family. He's a Ngema. The guy who's been overthrown is a Bongo. They are like second cousins or so. He was privileged within the presidential circle. At one time, he was the head of the presidential guard, and then they revolved him around. And at one time, he was sent abroad. He served as the military attaché to some embassies abroad. So he belongs to the same family. But the bigger question is, in this day and age, where we need strong institutions to govern countries, should we be relying on coups for change of power? What about democracy? What if the French had really supported a strong system of democracy in Gabon, where one family did not have to stay there forever? So I am neutral about the coup because, as we see with the history of Africa, when coups happen, people go to the streets, they jubilate, but we don't yet know the content of the character of the person who is taking over. We see in Equatorial Guinea, where Obiang Guema killed his uncle and took over. And he himself has been a cannibal in that nation. We saw the case in Uganda, where Idi Amin overthrew Obote and became even worse than Obote. So we condemn the Bongos, thinking that they can be the ones ruling that country forever. But personally, we should be neutral about that coup, because it doesn't move the needle on Ambazonia one way or another. And to answer the second part of your question, should France be worried? should La Republique be worried? Well, we've seen a cabinet reshuffle in Cameroon. And I'm going to give you a little allegory. They say if you have 100 ducks in a pack and you throw a stone in that pack, the dog that you hear squealing is the dog that has been hit by that stone. So yes, the ruling leadership in Cameroon is feeling very uncomfortable because the message from that coup has hit them. That is why you see them responding by shuffling the army, hoping that nobody gets any idea of overthrowing them. But let me tell you something. When a fruit is ripe on a tree, it shall fall. And the day of this corrupt regime in Cameroon shall come. For the benefit of people in French Cameroon, but for us Ambazonians, we have chosen the path by all means necessary to liberate our territory. And whether there's a coup in Mali or a coup in Niger or a coup in Gabon, or if Sassou Nguesso is overthrown in Congo, or Obiang Nguema in Equatorial Guinea, it does not move the needle on Ambazonia one bit. Thank you.
That is a lot of information. Yeah, there's something that you said before I get to Mawini. It says there's a saying that you're better off with the devil you know than the angel you don't know. So relating to what you said about the coup, that people are jubilating, they're happy, but they don't know what lies in the future. There are some rumors, really, before I get to Mawini, that this may really have been orchestrated by France because of the anti-France sentiment that is coming in those areas where there are chances that Russia may be getting in. But I will not waste time on that. Mawini, I want to ask you this question in terms of your thoughts about the coup, particularly from the standpoint that one family, because we know that if there is peace, if a country is thriving and the people are happy, it's possible that somebody may even govern for 100 years, they will not care because they are doing well, right? But you see most of these countries that have one person in power for years and years, they don't take care of the economic situation for their people, the social welfare for their people. And so the people are suffering while the few of them have amassed so much wealth that for them, their sphere of life is just that environment that they live within, and they are blind to anything else. So let's take this to our own situation in La République du Cameroon, because somehow Ambazonia is stuck with France having come up with that cooperation agreement where they control literally everything that is significant. Our money, for Christ's sake, CFA, all revolves around France and everything. So how will you? What is your take on this coup, and what do you think we as Ambazonians can benefit, or how should La Republic be feeling about this coup?
Thank you, my patience. I think neutrality will be the best thing for now. Watch and wait, watch and see. But there is one observation I saw. Let me backtrack before I get to answering what is the situation, how does La République views this. One observation that I see different in the Gabon masses on the street relative to that in Niger. The people in Niger were passionate. You heard the masses talking on social media. But in the coup of Gabon, you see, but the military, yes, you have the people coming out. Remember, the video you showed, Gabon, the per capita income, they are the fifth in Africa, and there are only 2.3 million citizens of that country. Only a third of them are living in abject poverty, contrary to what is happening in the Sahel, where you probably have 80 to 90% living in abject poverty. So the impact on the civilians or the citizens may be very different in Gabon relative to the Sahel, Francophonie countries. But ultimately, here's the first problem. A lot of the Francophonie presidents are stooges that are answerable to France. Cameroon is no exception. So if France is very unsure of who the next president and where their leaning will be, whether they want to truly serve their nation and their people and not their interests, they will even orchestrate that coup d'etat to bring you down. That's happened many times. And should La République de Cameroon be concerned? Yes, they should. But one, they have a president that is literally on life support. His health is not the best. His health is not the best, whether we want to agree or not. Somebody will say, okay, so is the president of the US. So is the the minority speaker in the Senate of the US. But they are it's different because we have institutions that are strong enough, and those institutions hold people and keep the nation running in a manner that you cannot just wink and change the constitution anytime you want, which is what has been happening. America, we didn't have term limits for president until FDR, when he died in office, because he had, I think he ruled for 3.5 terms, and then he ended up dying in office before Truman took over. But it was after that that the Americans decided they needed a term limit for their president, and which is healthy. And it's the laws of the land, the constitution not being upheld in these African nations in particular is what keeps dictators keep going. And unfortunately, the common man on the street is not well versed about the constitution. The experts who you should think are the ones to speak are not speaking because they are all part of this clique that benefits financially, because they live above their income, they live above their means, and they amass wealth and embezzle, and they also carry out this so-called let me call it democracy that is, I don't know, maybe we should call it the fake African democracy, where you go to ballot boxes just to legitimize your dictatorship and your evil, but there is really truly no democracy. So all this is why La République is afraid. Mr. Paul Biya has never even accepted. When they gave him a constitution, I think it was 92, they proposed something, he never cared. I think Ambazonia even had a better constitution under the British trustee territory than when we came out and our institutions were being eroded. And even what they had as the form of the state in the La République constitution, federal constitution, has never been upheld. Never. So it is because they don't have strong institutions. They don't have people that are bold enough, because they rule by the barrel of the gun, imprisonment, torture, and fear, human rights violations that are so gross. La République de Cameroon has every reason to be afraid. Even though they may be afraid, they have also tilted towards Russia in a little bit of trying to get away from France, because they know they cannot get enough money. But to be honest, that's all it's a facade. That in the public and in the open, you see this happening. But why France in the back is really still interested in maintaining its grip on its Francophonie nations. Believe it or not, I cannot understand even the common people of the nations that are spitting out France. They are also trying to, you trade in one, it's like you carry an old car. Let me use this analogy for those of us who live in America and Europe. You take in an old car to go trade it in, thinking you're going to buy another car, but you get a car, at least your old car, you know how the engine works, you know when it has problem. You go and trade it for another car that ends up being worse off than the car that you had before. So you would have paid more money, lost the one that maybe you were repairing it. Let me use La Republique money. Maybe you were repairing it every month for 30,000. Now you went and traded in, gave that one in, bought another car for 2 million. You are in debt, and every month you're spending 100,000 to fix this one that you thought you bought. That is what many African countries are really doing when they kick out France and don't focus on building their institutions, but they go the route of currying relationship with Russia, who is no better. Barrister Ghana just prior in the first part explained a lot of things that Russia, how they kept changing and were quiet and quiet and quiet. Dictatorship is really something that many people do not realize. But dictators are kept and propped by somebody, either under fear, which Barrister Ghana quoted, gave us that courage is not the absence of fear, but it's looking for what is more important, that you have to overcome that fear and be courageous to do what is needful. So dictators instill fear, they hide information, and they keep people ignorant, or they hush the ones that know and want to speak down, or torture them. So what is La République doing? They've done all of the above. They've done that. But why are they afraid now? I think they also locked their borders. I don't know whether it was prior to the coup, because they are also afraid that it may happen. But what we should be looking at is, are the citizens of La République de Cameroon really agitated and angry enough with the system, having been educated about this colonization compact that they had, or agreement that they had with France, that keeps them in perpetual poverty? Are they angry enough to see that their resources are going out and somebody else is eating their children's lunch and their children are starving? When they are, then they will step up. But we in Amazonia, our eyes are open. We know our identity, we know our history, and we are not standing for that lies anymore. That's why our history was kept away, because they knew that we were two separate nations. We are waiting. And I will appeal to our brothers and sisters that have taken refuge in La République. Maybe it's time for you to start thinking of coming back home, because when it starts there, you will have no village to run to, because it will all be strange land for you. So come back home. At least you know where the caves are in the village. You know where your grandma or your grandfather had land that you could go till and grow some vegetables for yourself, or food, or harvest something. So come back home. I appeal to you guys. Start coming back home, because it can happen any moment.
Thank you, Mawini. Before I bring Barrister Ghana back to ask this final question, and then we'll transition to October 1st preparation. This Article 6 of the cooperation agreement between France and Cameroon, that has locked Cameroon, La République du Cameroon, intertwined them. They're really slaves. We are slaves. And unfortunately for the people of former British Southern Cameroons, we have been by force included in that agreement solely because of the riches in our territory. But that agreement, that France shall determine Cameroon's political, economical and sociocultural orientations, that France shall manufacture money for Cameroon, that France shall guide and determine Cameroon's educational programs at all levels, that France public treasury shall have a portfolio named operations account to cover 100% of Cameroon's foreign exchange, although it was reduced to 65% in 1972, and that France shall be given priority in the exploitation of Cameroon's strategic raw materials. In the event where France is not interested, Cameroon may seek other partners to exploit the raw materials. And then in November of this agreement was in December 1959, just a few months before La République had its independence. So France was very smart. They had that just on time before they had their independence. But then in November 1961, they added the military component, that military aid shall be given to Cameroon's president if he's overwhelmed by any external aggressions or internal rebellion, and he calls in for France's military assistance. I bring this here now to tell our people that the previous video topic was about injustice and justice. There's really a time for the people's voices to be heard. France really has to leave Cameroon 100%. Whether La Republic wants it or not, we Ambazonians, we don't have anything to do with France. We did not sign that agreement with France. So, Barrister, I want you to talk about this as we will conclude this topic soon and then move to the next topic, because if for whatever reason the people do not do something when Frank Biya takes over, because that's where that's what it looks like is going to happen. They're already propping him to take over after after Biya leaves office, whether due to death or due to really, really deteriorated health situation. Biya is being propped to take that position. It's almost as if we're going to have a dynasty in La République du Cameroon. So what do you say to the people of La République du Cameroon based on everything that I've said, Barrister?
To the people of French Cameroon, or La République du Cameroon, I have a lot of pity and sympathy for the predicament that they find themselves in. And that string of agreements being signed by the French, the colonies of France, Cameroon, Mali, Niger, Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, Central African Republic, Chad, Senegal, you name it, all of them were forced. I think there are about 16 colonies that were forced to sign that agreement. The only country that objected was Mali, and we saw what happened to Mali. Algeria also objected to that. But to the people of French Cameroon is really a tricky situation. Mm-hmm. Why do I say it's a tricky situation? Unlike other African countries where you can have one dominant group that rules, and you don't have a polarization like in Cameroon. In Cameroon, you have a division between the northerners and the southerners, and then between the southerners, you have a division between the Bamilikis and the Doualas and the Ewondos, who are aligned with the people in the east, and all of them represent a kind of interesting porridge mix, where it's very difficult for one of those segments to rise up against the system in power. So the French presidency has really killed itself in being able to use one group against the others. And to add to that complex mix, they have used the Ambazonians or the Southern Cameroonians, or they prefer to call it the Anglophones. They've used them as a sort of wedge against the various groups, that when things get really difficult, they bring in somebody like Achidi Achu and they give him a little power, and they make him the one that divvies monies around to sort of calm fears down. They bring a Musonge or an Enoni who is now in the Crossbar Motel in Yaoundé called Kondengi, or they bring somebody like John Gute. So they use us as these unglorified errand boys to sort of wedge the rest of the system. And it makes it difficult for one party to rise. And you mentioned about the coup d'etat that was attempted in Cameroon. I know that coup d'etat was in April 6th, 1984. And that was the last attempted coup. And what happened to the Northerners sort of makes everybody else a little fearful to attempt a coup d'etat in Cameroon. And where Ambazonia again makes their situation very, very complicated is that over 50% of the resources in Cameroon, over 60% come from Ambazonia. And they use the oil wealth in Ambazonia to sort of divvy it amongst the elites and prevent them from rising against the system. And then they, in turn, have this incestual concept or belief that let's keep things going amongst us, the elites, because if we rock the boat too much, the Ambazonians might secede and we might get to lose that wealth. So Cameroon's situation is very, very complicated. But even when situations seem complicated, there is always a breakthrough. Who knew that the almighty Saddam Hussein, who saw himself as the modern day Nebuchadnezzar, could have that image of strength from Baghdad be shattered by American bombs that came roaring in and tanks that came roaring from Kuwait? So every dog has its day. And these brutal dictators are just dogs that are waiting to be brought down. Ditto Putin, your time is coming. Ditto Putin, your time is coming. And so, as they used to say in the guillotine chambers during the French Revolution, my lord, your time is coming. Just be patient. So, back to the situation in Cameroon. They think that they are grooming Frank Biya to take over. They think that they have all the chiefs controlled. They think that they are going to suppress Ambazonia, and they thought they were going to suppress Ambazonia in 3 weeks. They found out very differently. So France is not that dominant colonial master that it used to be. Africans are now not as uneducated as they were in the 60s. When we're gaining our independence in the 60s, less than 1% of Africans had a college education. When we're gaining our independence in the 60s, we saw what France did to the liberation movement, who would have refused to sign those cooperation accords, like the UPC. They killed them. People like Omyobe, Felix Mume, Bishop Ndongmo, you name it. So they've been running their game over and over. And in those cooperation agreements that you read, it even mentions in them that in case there's a military disturbance in Cameroon and the presidency cannot give orders for them to intervene, the French embassy can give orders for France to come in and intervene. What a piece of hogwash. And that agreement, by the way, is illegal. I'm surprised that these African countries still adhere to it. It's an illegal agreement. Why? Because the United Nations has decried colonialism as a crime against humanity. And that agreement is a perpetuation of colonialism. So why do these people still adhere to an agreement that is illegal? Stop me from scratching my head because I cannot figure why. But they think they have things in control. They think they are going to move the chips on the board just as they want. But again, just like they used to say in the guillotine chamber in the Bastille, when they were guillotining the lords, they used to say, "Be patient, my lord. Your turn is coming."
Yes.
The turn of those corrupt leaders in Cameroon is indeed coming.
Yes, Bia's time is coming. The time of all those that are surrounding Bia, that are exploiting Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia, their time is coming. Everybody will have their time, thanks to God. Yeah, so we will be moving to the next part of the program, the end of the program, that has to do with preparing for our Independence Day, October 1st. And we listened to the president yesterday, UN Southern Cameroon's Memorial Day, which will be the 30th of September. Before I bring my Winnie Barrister, I just want you to remind our people what really happened on that September 30th, 1961. Just remind our people so they understand. Our topic today, we started with injustice and we're ending with preparing for October 1st. But we want to touch on that 30th because now for us, it will become a national holiday, our UN, United Nations Southern Cameroon's Memorial Day, for people to remember that that is the day our fate was set in the negative direction. Talk to us briefly what happened on 30th September and also October 1st.
Yes, I'll talk to him about what happened on September 30th, but we cannot talk about September 30th without talking about giving a brief recap of the events leading to September 30th. We saw, first of all, Ambazonia had its independence voted for on April 21st, I think April 21st, 1961. In the Decolonization Committee, where they passed UN Resolution 1608. So we already saw Ambazonia's independence granted. Now, for those who say we are fighting for our independence, we are not fighting for our independence. We are already an independent people. We saw Ambazonia's independence come under UN Resolution 1514 that came out of the United Nations General Assembly, which said decolonize all countries that were under colonial rule or all trustee territories, irrespective of their economic status and irrespective of their preparedness for leadership. So under UN Resolution 1514 and 1608, we are already an independent people. We are fighting for our sovereignty. Why are we fighting for our sovereignty? Because French Cameroon stole our sovereignty. Article 5 of UN Resolution 1608 says the two parties have to meet and hammer a treaty of union that will govern the nation. Does a treaty of union exist between the Southern Cameroons and French Cameroon? It does not exist. So any attempt at tying us with French Cameroon is a non-starter. We are two sovereign entities. We are two sovereign nations that came out of the United Nations trusteeship system. We were two Class B trust territories who each got our independence separately. French Cameroon's Independence Day, January 1st, 1960. Our Independence Day, October 1st, 1961. But how did French Cameroon occupy us? Because instead of sitting together and hammering a treaty of union, which should have been ratified by the Southern Cameroon's parliament sitting in Boya and signed by our premier at that time, His Excellency John Foncha, they met in Fumban sometime in July, August, never came up with any agreement. So there is no treaty of union. And instead of hammering an agreement, it's been declassified now that Britain, behind the scenes and illegally, met with Ahijo and handed over the instruments of rulership of the Southern Cameroons, which was illegal. Went against UN Resolution 1608, went against UN Resolution 1514 XV. And French Cameroon troops now moved in September 30th into the Southern Cameroons, usurping the authority of the Southern Cameroon's executive government and destroying the intent and the letter of UN Resolution 1608 and 1514 XV. So that is what happened that put us in this predicament. And after that, we saw Ahijo move forward to dissolve the political parties. Eventually, they overthrew the government of Ngombo Bejua that came after Foncha. They dissolved the Southern Cameroon's parliament. They sent in Estimuna to come in and finish the job by dissolving the companies, the institutions of the Southern Cameroons. That is why we are where we are. So our day of independence is October 1st, 1961. That's why we celebrate it. But our sovereignty was stolen from us because Britain did an underhanded job by handing over the sovereignty of the Southern Cameroons to French Cameroon without a treaty of union. So we are clearly an independent people. We should not be with French Cameroon. And that is why French Cameroon is running as far and as fast as possible from the negotiation table. Let me repeat that. That is why French Cameroon is running as far and as fast as possible from the negotiation table because they don't have a case. Legally, they do not have a case. They do not have any legal right over the Southern Cameroons. They are an occupying force. They are a colonizer. And even the Gaullist Frenchman who oversaw Fumban, Pierre Mesmer, in his own memoir, page 105, in his own memoir titled Le Blanc Sang Vong, he says, sauf en apparence une annexation. Pardon my French, which means, but for in appearance, it was an annexation. So we are an annexed people and we are in our right using all instruments of self-defense in any legal jurisdiction and in any culture. We are in our right to use whatever tools and whatever means we need to use to kick the occupiers out from Amazonia, just like Ukraine is doing to kick the occupiers out of Ukraine. And we will continue to prosecute and pursue the journey to our independence until we totally regain the sovereignty of Amazonia. Thank you, Mabe.
Absolutely, absolutely. I like you always reminding our people the truth of our history so that they never forget. Mawini, I'm going to have you conclude with telling us how these preparations for October 1st will be going on in Germany, in other parts of the diaspora. Mawini, over to you, please.
Thank you. Thank you again, my patients, and thank you, viewers, for staying and engaging with us on this program. Barrister Ghana really explained why we went with this September 30th, because that looks like some new thing. Where is this coming from? For those who really understood, it's because the Queen's government at the time, instead of giving what is called the instruments of leadership, instead of giving it to Jongu Foncha, whose party won and was in parliament, so he was the premier at that time, or the prime minister of Southern Cameroons at the time. They had been having communications from the British embassy with Haijo, or the British High Commissioner with Haijo, during the leading up to September 30th. So the instruments were actually handed. For those of the people who like to see and understand how ceremonies are carried out, the Union Jack flag that was in British Southern Cameroon would have been hoisted down, and then they will fold it, and then they will hand it over to whoever is taken. That was the link of power changing hands and being handed. So they actually gave this to Haijo, which means La République still has an important piece of our history in their keeping. They better not tell us when we are leaving, because we will be asking for that. And we will be asking for the flag that flag mount that Kofi Annan also came and gave Mr. Beer during their 50th anniversary of whatever. We'll be asking for all those things. So they should be ready. When we negotiate, we will take those emblems. They are called emblems. We'll take them back. So that is why we are doing this September 30th. It was like a dark cloud fell on us while the sun was trying to come out. Then somebody took a black cloth and covered it, and all we were happy was that, oh yeah, the sun is behind that black cloud, but we never saw the light because we were just in storm and never even knew we were in a storm. So how are we preparing? Everybody that is in Europe, there is in Berlin. Berlin is the place to get to. We have preparations for the celebration on the 30th, and of course, a celebration for October 1st. There will be demonstrations and there will be marching and there will be other activities. Please, please make time. It's a weekend, so you can go in, drive in on Friday evening. And then we have the celebration on Saturday, have the celebration October 1st on Sunday, and then you can get back and go home or take a day off on Monday. I hear in Monday is actually a holiday in Germany. So please come in your numbers and join. And of course, while we're doing that, we want to also use our rightful emblems. On the 30th, the emblems that will be used that day will be the United Nations flags and other emblems of United Nations. And there will be that demonstration, I think, in front of the United Nations, whatever office there. I don't speak German, so I cannot really describe the location, but we'll have them in many of our forums. Coming October 1st, there will also be a demonstration. Then we will come out with all our Amazonia regalias, our amber wrappers. The best person that has the best outfit and the best display will win a prize. It's it's already out there, and with our Amazonia flags, and also there are many other activities. Are meant to keep quiet about them, but if you get there, I think with time you will get to know some of those activities. And of course, there is nothing that we cannot do where we will not put our Amazonia food. There will be Amazonia food, so don't forget, you want to eat Amazonia food of all kinds, it will also be in that occasion. So please don't stay behind. Come out, get your children, bring them out, let them see what is happening, how we celebrate our heritage, our history, our identity, and who we are, and what needs to be carried on and passed to that generation that they will pass. Even if they are in diaspora and they are part of that, believe it or not, it will leave an impact. Last weekend, I was watching the 60th anniversary of the I Have a Dream Martin Luther King Jr.'s march in Washington, D.C. And people were saying, I was just a kid when this happened. And but it's sad that we are still fighting the same fight that our parents fought. We thought our children will be having something different, but we're still fighting, and it seems that we're passing it. Let me be quite clear. Freedom is not free. It comes at a price and a cost. And every generation has to fight to protect it, to keep it, and to uphold it. And if we want the free sovereignty that we so desire, join October 1st, join September 30th celebration in Berlin. I'm sure there will be other activities in different parts of the globe, diaspora, but I think this year Berlin seems to be our main focus. I think there will be something. There may be something also in Brazil, which is South America. There will be probably multiple events also in the United States and maybe Canada, but Berlin is where our focus is for the year, and the interim government led by President Sarko, they are pushing and putting their energy to see that what is going to happen on October 1st as well as September 30th is going to be a success and will be an interesting time. I wish I'm not in the committee that decide what people should wear. I would have said we should wear blacks and hold the UN flag, because that would tell the world, why are you in black? Because our sovereignty was stolen and killed on this day. And then the UN said nothing. But that's for another time. And then on the first, we come out with all our bright white and blue colors and with the yellow accents to it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And just to add to that, those who are in the home front, the president already told you, if you listened to him yesterday, that you should also come out with UN colors on the 30th. But on the 1st, the ARFs will do what they usually do in uniform and march and display and recognize our Independence Day. Although we are still struggling to be free from La Republic, we are already an independent nation. I'm going to have Barrister Ghana give his closing remarks. Mawini, you give your closing remarks, and then I'll end by reading a short excerpt from this book that I talked about as we end the show. We've taken enough time. We should be rounding up very, very soon. So, Barrister Ghana, your closing remarks, followed by Mawini, and then I will round up the program for today.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Abiedu, for having us on this show. And we thank God for having this medium where our people on the home front can listen to what is going on in the revolution, as well as get inspired by leaders who are in the diaspora. To all freedom-loving people, to all those who've waited for the day for us to end our enslavement in La Republique, to all those who think that the night has been very long and they are getting weary of this journey, to all those who still have a flicker of hope or a candle burning in their minds towards the freedom of Ambazonia, I want to assure you guys that freedom is coming, and that the night might be long and dark, but the light at the end of the tunnel is always there. And all what we have to do is look at history to affirm that quest of every enslaved and chained people who have cried for freedom, who have cried to be liberated. We look down to South Africa, where the ANC was formed in 1912 by Govan Mbeki, the parents of Thabo Mbeki, and a whole host of others. And people like Nelson Mandela and Walter Sisulu got in the 60s and changed that struggle. And we thought that Black South Africa was never going to be liberated from the chains of that apartheid regime. And Inkomto Wezizwe, meaning the arrow of the nation, was formed and fought for the liberation of South Africa. And the Freedom Charter was written as the governing instrument of that nation. And today we have a democratic nation that is being governed on the principle of justice. And all Africans are vying to go to South Africa to pursue their dreams, just because the South Africans stood up and they fought. And we look at the United States, where it has become the beacon of light in the world, where it keeps lighting that torch of freedom to liberate enslaved people in the world, whether it's the liberation of Europe that was under the boot of Adolf Hitler, or the liberation of the Korean Peninsula, or the liberation that is currently ongoing in Ukraine. where we have a brutal killer like Vladimir Putin, who sought to perpetuate his stay in power by distracting Russians and invading Ukraine, thinking that it was going to be a 3 weeks job. But America stood to light that torch of freedom to enable the freedom of Ukraine. And just like its liberation of Ukraine, patriots also stood up in the United States in the 1750s and 1760s and rose up against the brutality of England and rose up against the concept of taxation without representation that began with the Boston Tea Party riots and led to a civil war that culminated in the drafting of a constitution in 1791 that started the journey of this free nation that has become a beacon of light for the world. So be not weary. For like I said, the American Revolution started in the 1750s and the 1760s. And it took 30 years before the Constitution was written that has become the strongest governing document in this world. So be not be weary, for the day of liberation is coming. And we look at Africa now, we look at countries becoming democratic, we look at Tanzania, we look at Kenya, we look at Ghana, but we have to remember, and we even look at French Cameroon, but we have to remember, it was because some patriots stood up in Ghana to fight for the liberation of Ghana. In Kenya, we had the Mau Mau that stood up and fought for the liberation of Kenya. And liberation movements stood up all over Africa. And even in Algeria, where we had Ben Bella, who led the Algerians to fight against the French. So the struggle to free any oppressed people is never easy. But when we look at the history of when we look at the history of current day free nations, we saw the blood of heroes who stood up to fight. That is why we tip our hat and say thank you to our restoration fighters who are fighting to liberate Ambazonia. And if you are in the diaspora and you're not chipping in your little bit, know that God has put you in the diaspora for a reason, to help in the liberation of Ambazonia. So don't sit in your corner and say, "Not that their thing," or say, "Let them liberate Ambazonia and we'll come enjoy it." It lies on you to help Ambazonia pull itself out of slavery with our own bootstraps, because we are the ones that we've been waiting for. So as we approach 1st of October, as we are just 1 month from 1st of October, the day of celebration, where we should be celebrating the liberation of Ambazonia, we remember that we are still in the trenches, because we are bent on delivering that promise of freeing a people where if we don't free them, we have no other option than to remain in total slavery in French Cameroon. And no man wants to remain as an oppressed, a chained person for the rest of their life. So we thank Ambazonians who are fighting. We thank Ambazonians who are paying the price towards delivering that freedom. And we call on all Ambazonians to join under the leadership of Dr. Samuel Sako, who is making a difference on the ground, to send a message to La République that we will not accept the liberation of our land. And we thank Dr. Sako and the whole cabinet who are making all of those sacrifices to ensure that one day we say freedom, freedom, free at last indeed. Thank you, Dr. Abiedu, for giving me this opportunity to deliver this closing remark.
That was a great closing remarks. I think our people are listening and they are buying everything you're saying, and in due time we'll be free indeed. Mawini, over to you.
Yes, thank you. I want to first of all thank everyone that has been sitting in their comfy seats or not so comfy seats, or glued to their little TVs back at home front, listening to us. Thank you for doing that. But I want to especially thank all the families whose sons and daughters, their blood has been spilled and while they carry a heavy guilt, a grief and loss, just remember that that loss is not going to be it's not going to be in vain. And for the families whose young men are being held in detention in La République dungeons, we just continue to say, we pray and continue to pray and join us. We pray for them and we pray and we say, continue to pray as well that this journey to Buea will be shorter. The days will be less. Our feet will not be weary as we walk there, so that we will ultimately get to open those prison doors like the angel opened the prison doors and got Peter out of all the call it four quadrants of soldiers that he was put underneath, and with two or three, I think, or four even gates. This gate of La République will come opening, and the captives, Amazonia, will be set free. I want to give you that assurance, and we're doing the very best. And the interim government, as President Sako explained yesterday during the press release he had with Dr. Mongwa, some of the things that he's been doing in the back quietly so that we can get home faster. I also want to take this time to thank every one of our civilians who not only are they observing ghost towns, but are also supporting their children who are the fighters, and they and providing not just food for them, but also being the great informants. There is no hiding here as if nobody would tell or give information. Information gathering and sharing is part of life. And all nations do that. And some of them are called espionage, and some of it is just for protection. What is critical and important is that when you guys support the restoration fighters, you actually are helping to protect the civilian population, because they are the shield around you. I'm not talking about those that have been the hirelings that Pongia Tanga has paid for to come and pretend to be restoration fighters, or the ones that stand on the roads and hijack the prizes and make people come and pay them, kidnap, and they take ransoms. That's not who I'm talking. I'm talking about the genuine restoration fighters who have been going and defending and protecting you at the home front, so that more lives will not be wasted innocently. And I want to thank you, restoration fighters. With the little that God has given you, I like the symbol that we have, the rock and the catapult as our emblem of resistance. When David brought down Goliath, it was not with some mighty military sword and shield and everything that was common at the time. Today we may call them bee bombers or whatever. Goliath had the most modern weapons that they had at their time, and against all odds, it looked like he was going to be the winner. But there was somebody who understood the truth of who he was, what he was born for, and where he stood, and who was behind him, the God that was behind him, who gave them the freedom. And with a mere sling, a sling is just a little piece of maybe leather, and with some 5 rocks he picked, and he only used one. He picked them by a stream and put them in there, and that rock went. It's like that catapult that we saw, that one person held the fork down, and the other ones pull it to release that rock. See, we are free. The day of the total liberation and our sovereignty is just at the corner. Don't give up. Many people will be ashamed. And for those of you in diaspora, Barrister Ghana already spoke and said, don't call it that your thing. Because guess what? The price of freedom is not free. There will be a day of reckoning, there will be a day of payment. Because if it doesn't happen, that when we get home, you have to pay your arrears of what you didn't do to get us to get to freedom. Then don't say that we are confused. So who do we give it to? There is your LGAs. Go to your LGAs. President Sako has the structures that will help us transition fast as soon as we get home. So please join us. And I may want to take this opportunity and remind Ambazonians that tomorrow is the draft for Lebialem County. So please do join and come early. The sooner we come, the sooner we finish, the sooner we go to bed. And so we are not so tired and druggy on Sunday morning and we can go to church. So please, thanks again for having us, my patients, and thanks the listener for listening to us. And Barrister Ghana, thank you for the elaborate, detailed information and all your references that you just easily just quote them and bring those stories alive to demonstrate what has been happening. Because he who does not understand their history and does not learn it, they are bound to make the same mistakes that have been going on. And we don't want to pass or pass this on to our children or grandchildren. What we want to do is finish the job, hand to our children a treasure of a free Amazonia, a sovereign state, and with strong institutions that will let them be grounded in good governance and democracy for the rest of their lives. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It has been a pleasure having both of you here today. And I know that we'll be doing this again in the future. I really want to appreciate you. I will close by reading a small excerpt that I mentioned about in this book written by Carson Anyangwe. It says, Imperialistic Politics in Cameroon, Resistance, and the Inception of the Restoration of the Statehood of Southern Cameroons. Barrister Ghana already mentioned some of this, but I just want to read this so you hear exactly what he says. International human rights law ordains that the will of the people shall be the basis of the authority of government. The evidence shows that Cameroon Republic, the former French Cameroon UN Trust Territory that gained independence on 1st January 1960, is in forcible occupation of the British Southern Cameroons, the former UN Trust Territory under British administration. First, there is no act of union between the two countries. Secondly, there is no international treaty by which the frontiers of independent French Cameroon have been extended from what they were at the attainment of its independence on 1st January 1960 to now include the territory of the Southern Cameroons. Thirdly, every day the people of the Southern Cameroons reject by word and conduct the colonial occupation of their territory by Cameroon Republic, and every day they demand the ending of that colonial occupation. Fourthly, there is no respite in Cameroon Republic's savage ill treatment of the people of the Southern Cameroons and its wanton plunder of the resources of their territory. Fifthly, it is patent even to the casual observer that the relationship between the Southern Cameroons and the Cameroon Republic is that of horse and rider. With this, we conclude today's show. I want to thank you all for watching and see you next time on the horizon. Long live the Federal Republic of Amazonia. Short live the liberation movement. Thank you so much.
You are watching The Horizon, the voice of the Amber Woman, exclusively on ABC Amber TV.